Hey everyone, and welcome back to the EdgeVerse Techcast, your go-to place for everything related to NXP software, tools, and enablement, specifically tailored for your NXP processors and microcontrollers. This is Bridgette Stone, one of your co-hosts, and today we are bringing to you the second episode in our AI Acceleration Week focused on our new Ara DNPUs.
That's right, Bridgette. We put together another week. It's focused on bringing more information to the topic that our listeners are asking about. The first episode that we just finished up was a discussion with Ravi, who leads the NPU product line, and he talked about the recent release of the Ara 240. So now, as he mentioned, this episode is going to focus on how developers can begin using those DNPUs in their own products. So Ravi shared the importance of strong partnerships, and our guest today exemplifies that more than anybody.
Absolutely. Joining us today is Andreas Kopitz from F&S Elektroniksystem. Andreas, welcome to the EdgeVerse. How are we doing today?
Hello, Bridgette and Kyle. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. But first of all, it's really great to be part of the EdgeVerse podcast series because I generally enjoy listening to it.
Well, now the pressure's really on. Andreas, take a moment and introduce yourself to our listeners, please.
Sure. Thank you. I'm Andreas Kopitz, but Bridgette, please call me Andy. Whenever I hear Andreas, I get nervous. Because when my wife says Andreas, it usually means I'm already in deep trouble.
Well, no trouble today.
Absolutely. So in a nutshell, I'm sales director at F&S Elektroniksystem in Germany. I've been in the embedded systems for more than 30 years, which explains a little bit my gray hair. So glad that this podcast is without video. Outside of work, I still do mountain bike downhill riding. And as you can imagine, at almost 60, I'm usually the oldest guy in the bike park by a comfortable margin. I also collect old 80s synthesizers, working on my 1968 Ford Mustang in my barn, and occasionally make knives in my small forge. So apparently my hobbies are just different versions of dangerous engineering projects.
Those are amazing. I think I need to pick up some of those. I know, Andy, that forging knives is really exciting. I love this show in America. It has the contestants that are challenged to forge knives and different weaponry using different metals and processes. It's crazy. I've watched hours and hours of it.
I know that. I know one of my favorite shows, Forged in Fire, so also
Exactly.
very famous here in Germany. So.
Okay.
All right, now let's get back to our boring day jobs, embedded computing. So Andy, while we were planning this episode, you shared a pretty pivotal meeting that you had last year in 2025 when you were in NXP in Austin, Texas. You mentioned in that meeting with our teams, you were discussing future functional safety applications. It was around the i.MX 95. What were customers starting to ask you that caught your attention?
Yeah, that was actually a very interesting trip. I was in Austin, as you said, last May for the DFAE event. And I also had several meetings at the NXP headquarters. Originally, we mainly discussing future plans around the i.MX 8 ULP and CRA-related topics. But during those discussions, I also shared some ideas I had around the i.MX 95 for robotics and autonomous vehicles. Because what I saw very clearly was that customers suddenly wanted everything at once. Functional safety, Linux, ROS2, AI, of course, multiple camera streams and real-time decision-making, all running on compact edge AI platforms.
Yeah, those are definitely all the buzzwords that we're hearing on every episode.
Definitely. And honestly, the i.MX 95 already looked extremely attractive for that, offering great security, excellent connectivity, real functional safety capabilities, strong graphics, and very modern architecture.
All right, so you guys started identifying a very clear trend. You saw that customers wanted advanced AI capabilities alongside functional safety, Linux, robotics frameworks like ROS2. So where did the gaps start to appear?
Exactly. The biggest gap we identified was AI performance for advanced robotics perception. For many robotics and autonomous systems, one or two cameras are definitely no longer enough. Customers now want multiple and high resolution camera streams, object detection, scene understanding, sensor fusion, and AI assisted navigation, sometimes all simultaneously. And while the i.MX 95 provides excellent AI capabilities and functional safety features, for these really demanding edge AI workloads, customers needed significantly more AI horsepower. Especially for robotics developers using ROS2 and modern AI pipelines, the appetite for TOPS grows much faster than the speed of a 20-year-old guy passing me in the bike park. And then Robert Thompson mentioned some exciting news.
So that probably came around the time of the ARA 240 announcement. I think I know exactly where you're going with this story. Once you learned about the ARA 240 roadmap, what made you realize this could help close those gaps that you identified?
Yeah, that really changed everything from one moment to the next. And by the way, back in the prehistoric era of 2025, we still called it ARA 2.
That's right. And as the Marcom police will stay on brand and remember to call it the ARA 240. So, Andy, when you learned about the ARA 240, what technical features allowed it to close those gaps?
Well, the biggest thing was obviously the massive leap in AI acceleration capabilities. Suddenly, we had a platform capable of handling advanced edge AI workloads directly on device, while still pairing beautifully with the i.MX 95 ecosystem. That combination is really powerful because now we can separate responsibilities intelligently. The i.MX 95 handles HMI, connectivity, safety architecture, system control, and security, while ARA 240 delivers the AI horsepower for neural networks and advanced inference. For robotics customers, this is really huge. Now applications like autonomous mobile robots, machine vision, intelligent medical systems, warehouse robotics, or smart industrial inspection became much more realistic at the edge.
Okay, so now you leave Austin and you have a clear set of targets, and you were super excited about the potential that the ARA 240 was going to provide to your customers. Before you jump in to what F&S developed with that technology, I want to clarify the relationship that you have with NXP. So F&S is one of only 5 partners that were trusted with delivering solutions with the ARA 240 launch. So explain to the listeners, why do you consider F&S was selected? Share a little bit about why embedded developers love working with F&S.
Yeah. I think one important reason is that F&S combines hardware, software, and long-term support into one complete platform approach. I mean, we've been working in the embedded systems for more than 30 years, and customers know us as a very engineering-driven company. We don't just ship a module and wish customers good luck. We help them through the entire project lifecycle. And that includes hardware customization, of course, Linux BSP support, but also thermal concepts, security integration, lifecycle management, and increasingly also functional safety concepts.
Okay, so now that the listeners know why they should work with F&S and the value you bring to them, why don't you let everybody know what your team ended up putting together after you heard about the ARA 240?
Well, we developed a smart-based platform combining the i.MX 95 with the ARA 240 DNPU, or AI accelerator. The platform targets robotics, of course, machine vision, autonomous systems, advanced HMI, and functional safety applications. The i.MX 95 provides the secure and safety-oriented system foundation, while the Ara240 adds the massive AI acceleration needed for modern edge AI workloads. In addition to the SMART solution, we also developed our own dedicated M.2 module based on the Ara240, giving customers even more flexibility for scalable AI integration.
That's such a great example of a plan really coming together. But there's one more piece we have to talk about, and that's software, which is Kyle's absolute favorite topic.
I love it.
You mentioned F&S has a strong history of delivering reliable Linux software and long-term support. What does the software story look like for these new Ara240 platforms?
Bridgette, hang on. Really? I had absolutely no idea that Kyle loves talking about software so much. What a complete surprise to all of us.
Well, I think I just like to talk, but software is definitely at the top of the list.
Okay, got it. Okay. Joking aside, software is really where modern robotics systems either become brilliant or become very expensive debugging projects. At F&S, we strongly focus on Linux-based software platforms, Yocto integration, long-term maintenance, and now increasingly also Linux functional safety concepts. And what's really exciting is that the industry is finally moving away from the old idea that Linux and functional safety cannot work together. Today, modern approaches use a combination of a hypervisor and a safety supervisor layer. The hypervisor isolates different software domains, while the supervisor continuously monitors the Linux system and detects unwanted behavior before it becomes a safety problem.
All right, so that is where the safety comes into the solution. The system needs to be proven to monitor, detect, and prevent unwanted behavior. Thanks for making it simple to understand, Andy.
Oh, glad my explanation helped. But now that we know what functional safety is trying to achieve, the challenge is still delivering it with Linux. So instead of trying to make the entire Linux kernel perfect or safe, which by the way is not possible, the actual idea is let Linux do what Linux does best. Networking, AI frameworks, ROS2, graphics, while the supervisor and hypervisor architecture provide the safety monitoring and separation. This is especially attractive for robotics because developers can continue using familiar Linux and ROS environments without needing completely separate development ecosystems.
Now, that's really interesting because robotics seems like the perfect example of where all these worlds collide: AI, safety, Linux, ROS, and real-time processing. How does the Linux functional safety approach help robotics developers specifically?
Yeah, robotics is actually the perfect example. Modern robotics, what do they need? Perception, of course, AI, sensor fusion, motion planning, networking, and real-time communication all working together. ROS2 has become one of the most important middleware frameworks in robotics because it enables modular and scalable development. But robotics customers don't want to build two completely separate worlds. One for smart robotics and another for safe robotics? No. That creates enormous complexity. So Linux-based functional safety approaches allow developers to continue leveraging ROS2 ecosystems while building towards safety-oriented architectures. That's a very powerful shift for the industry.
Well, Andy, I'm glad the industry is making sure our intelligent robots are also safe. I'm still having major concerns caused by those Terminator movies I saw while I was growing up. But Andy, I think you've officially convinced all the listeners to take a serious look at both F&S and the Ara240 platform. So for the developers listening today, how do you suggest is the best way for them to get started? And what does F&S provide to help reduce the learning curve?
Yeah, thanks for asking. The key is lowering complexity early. We provide customers with ready-to-use starter kits with reference platforms, Linux BSP, a lot of documentation, integration guidance, AI enablement, and direct engineering support. And the key is direct, means from engineer to engineer, direct support, because customers don't want to spend 6 months figuring out basic infrastructure before they can even evaluate their AI application. We also provide demos and reference designs focused on robotics, machine vision, industrial automation, medical applications, and of course, safety-oriented systems. And honestly, one of the biggest values is helping customers avoid expensive wrong turns early in development.
Okay, well, hopefully this podcast can act as sort of a traffic cop, and we'll try to get people to stay on the right path. Why don't we work with you, Andy? We'll get some of those links to resources so the listeners can explore some of the value you guys provide for them to get started.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
All right, Andy. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. So today, we've all talked about how customer requirements are rapidly evolving, especially as we've discussed in detail robotics, but also machine vision and safety-oriented edge AI systems. And now with the i.MX 95 and the RO240, we're helping developers bring all those pieces together in a real easy, scalable way. We also learned how you at F&S are helping simplify that journey with this ready-to-use hardware design, but more importantly, as you just mentioned, all those software enablement packages, application example designs, and direct support working hand in hand with the engineers at your customers.
Andy, thanks again for joining us. I learned a lot today, and I think our listeners now have a much better understanding of where Edge AI, functional safety, and robotics are all heading together.
Really, thanks so much for having me. This was really a lot of fun, and we are really excited about what's coming next with NXP and the Ara portfolio.
For our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode of the EdgeVerse Techcast. And be sure to come back tomorrow for day 3 of our AI week with the focus on RO240. We've got another great conversation coming your way.
And until then, everyone, keep innovating, keep exploring what's possible at the edge, look into those smart and safe robots, and we'll catch you on the next EdgeVerse Techcast.